like to introduce to you a guy by the name of Tony Tone. He used to be the DJ, still is, as far as I'm concerned, for a group called the Cold Crush Brothers, or the Cold Crush 4, CC4. You've seen him all semester. I've been showing you clips of this guy in music videos and in movies. Could you please put your hands together for one of my heroes in hip-hop, DJ Tony Tone. Thanks for coming through, Tone.
My pleasure.
Appreciate you, man. Next up, I would like to introduce to you another one of my heroes. I have many hip-hop heroes. We are so fortunate.
He's my hero, too.
Yeah, this is both our heroes. This guy, man, I just remember, like with Tone, my brother would play me cassette tapes of this guy just getting busy on turntables, like really owning the set, owning the music, altering sounds, coaxing these crazy sounding scratches out of records like Scratching and other breaks that just had me floored. And I learned a lot from this guy indirectly. I may have not been a student of his, like you guys are my students, but indirectly from afar, he, like Tony Tone, taught me a lot about this art form. Make some noise for my boy, Jazzy J. Somebody say ho! 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 Somebody scream! Oh man, alright, this is gonna be fun. Alright, we have these two legends here, and the reason I brought them to the new school was because I want you guys to hear from the source of this whole art form that you've been learning over the past month and a half or so. I could tell you the stories that they passed on to me from touring with Jazzy J, from going to hip-hop events and running into Tony Tone and just sitting him down and picking his brain. I could relay and regurgitate all the stories that they passed on to me, but I feel it's more important for you guys to hear from them.
And while we're still alive.
While they're still here, you know?
I ain't going nowhere. When I come, I'm coming back as a butterfly.
Yes.
DJ Butterfly.
Yes.
Yeah, you know, like, we're fortunate enough to have the pioneers and the creators of this art form still around us, still walking this earth. And it's important for us to take advantage of that, you know? If you're, for example, one of the jazz students here at the new school, how amazing would it be to sit down in front of Miles Davis or John Coltrane and just ask them questions about jazz and how jazz was created and the evolution of that genre of music. Well, we have John Coltrane here and Miles Davis here. And I don't say that lightly. These guys are the pioneers of this art form and this genre that you guys are learning. So take advantage, ask your questions at the end of this lecture. It's not often that we get this opportunity to be graced by such hip-hop royalty. And I hope that the questions that I ask them will be insightful, and the way they answer will be insightful for you guys and will help you kind of grasp this art form a little more from a personal, emotional standpoint and not just the physicalness of it. Because I could pull anyone off the street and have them scratching in a couple of minutes. You guys see that I'm like the best teacher of this art. So I can have...
Give it up.
Give it up.
Give them the claps.
So I mean, I could teach anyone how to scratch, but will they have an appreciation for what they're doing, and will they understand the genesis of it? You know, and that's why I brought these guys, because they are the genesis of this culture and this art. So with that, we're going to try to spend a few minutes, hopefully not too long, on recapping your background for our news section. Tone, Jazzy J, if you guys wouldn't mind just imparting on my class words on your background. How did you come up, your childhood, what schools did you go to? And hopefully then we could just kind of segue into the present.
born in New York. Back and forth down south, working tobacco and all that. Used to get beat up, all that. Get beat up outside, go upstairs, my mother beat me, go back downstairs and fight. Then, gangs, all the negative stuff. And got into a culture that's now a culture, something that called hip hop, and learned the lesson of how peaceful it's supposed to be, how humble you're supposed to be, and how giving you're supposed to be. That's who Tony Toe is.
DJ Jazzy J, often imitated but never quite duplicated the original from the Boogie Down Bronx. I stay from the Bronx, but I'm originally from Beaufort, South Carolina, where, I grew up with very strong family-based situation, family structure. Always was involved in music. I can remember my earliest days just being in the crib, listening to James Brown, listening to the Baptist soul hymns and stuff like that. Knew I was bound for music from that point. I didn't know nothing, but I knew that. And migrating to New York, being involved with the gang scene in Harlem, then moving to the Bronx, living in Bronx River Projects, with under the tutelage of Africa Bambaataa, kind of solidified my kind of induction into hip hop. And at its earliest stage, we didn't even know what to call it. It wasn't called hip hop at that time. It was just something. It was just something to do to rebel against what was going on the radio, what was going on in the neighborhood, and to actually inject a positive influence into something. Because either you did that, you did some music. If you wasn't good in sports, which I was halfway, I was semi-decent, but I was semi-short, so couldn't really do all of that sports stuff, you know what I'm saying? So basically, you try to do something that will get you into a level where you can actually be an asset to your parents that tried to do so hard to, even though they didn't have a lot of resources, they tried to do something to get you all to the best, because every generation in my family was supposed to be better than the previous generation. That's how we grew up, and that's how we're supposed to pass it on to the kids and then pass it on. And my influence in hip-hop was just element of being in the right place at the right time, and I'm so happy. I didn't really choose hip-hop, it kind of chose me, and I was glad to just be there on the ground floor when they spanked hip-hop on the ass and it screamed out, "I am here." Jazzy J was involved with it, and I'm still lucky enough to still be around and still be involved with it till this day.
You touched on something, Jay, that was interesting just now with regards to hip-hop, the term. When you were immersing yourself into the culture, there was no real name for it. Can we talk about who coined the term hip-hop and how did that happen?
Well, you know what? I don't want to get myself to lying, but I think it was one of the brothers that I knew, God bless the dead, Keith Cowboy. He was one of the members of the Furious Five, and he that was like his like little catch signature phrase to him, because it could have been called a lot of things. Because remember back in the days, it was a phrase called "You Don't Stop," and they used to go, "Oh, and you don't stop, and you don't, you won't, you never, don't, you don't, and you." So it could have been, hip hop could have been called "You Don't Stop," but I think when that phrase got coined, it kind of like stuck, and kind of, because when we used to go to the jams, what the b-boys used to do, they used to just bounce around. It used to be called born young, and it used to be called the go off. It's called different terminology of what they did on the dance floor, because that was like one of the earlier phases of hip hop. I think the term hip hop kind of like solidified what they did and kind of rounded out what we all did as far as the MCs, DJs, everything, kind of rounded everything out. And I think that's why it stuck.
So Keith Cowboy from the Furious Five.
From the Furious Five.
Their DJ was Grandmaster.
Actually, it was the Furious Four at the time when he was down. He was one. It was Furious Three. Let's see, Tone, man. Tone been around.
I should be asking Tone.
No. He's doing good. He's doing good.
But the group we know as the Furious Five had a member named Keith Cowboy, and when he would get on the mic, when Grandmaster Flash was DJing, he would say the term hip hop a lot.
It's to the hip, the hop, the hip, the hop, take a look on your mom and check the clock. And then
So then who, like, at one point did the term just hip hop, you know, like, was it Keith Cowboy that said, yo, we should call this hip hop, or was it someone else that heard him say it?
Media.
The media.
If you don't really understand it, and I understand where, as nobody take it personal, when white people come into a culture that they don't understand, the first thing they have to do is they have to actually identify with it, then they have to label it so that they can define it in order to feed it to the masses. We were only feeding it to just the people that was just in our neighborhood.
Wow. That's fucking powerful. That's so powerful. You guys are just doing something for the sake of doing it, for the sake of being creative. You weren't thinking about...
For the sake of getting out the house and getting away from, you in the projects, you want to get the hell out the house. So that's what our motivation was, just like, yo, just get up, go do something.
And the Bronx was gang ridden, and you couldn't go across the street. So that was another way of alleviating the negative gang vibe, and people would take off their colors to come to Bronx River. You couldn't come to Bronx River with your colors on. So when they was doing something in Bronx River, you want to go, you take off your colors and you come and be peaceful.
Right. So the media took a hold of this hip hop, those two words, and labeled it that, branded it that, and you guys were like, all right, I guess this is what they're calling it, and it stuck.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Got it.
You've been scratching a long time, right?
Yes, sir.
What's it called, scratching?
Right.
I remember I got very offended when Tommy Boy came up to me and said, yo, you know the way you scratch on the record? And I got offended. I was like, because I took pride in taking care of my records. Anybody that collect records, that collect real good records, you know, you get a scratch on your record, pissed. When he told me, yo, man, the way you scratch some records, I'm like, dude, what are you talking about, man? Look, ain't no scratches on my records. The first time I heard that, I really got really pissed at him. But what happened is he kind of told me, because I play drums. So he said, nah, the way a guy scratches on the guitar, he scratches with his nails across the strings, and it makes almost that same type of sound that you make. So I said, okay, I'll accept your explanation for that. But look, there's no scratches on my record.
So I tell my students all the time, the term baby scratch, which is considered the first scratch that Grounds and Theodore did, that term was invented in the early 90s. Theodore invented the baby scratch in the mid-70s. So we went 15 years without really calling it the baby scratch. My friends and I, my brother and I, would call it like just rubbing the record. Rub the record, and I said, yo, your rubs sound dope.
Hey, yo, you know what? Y'all gonna think it's real primitive. We know what we used to call it?
What?
Zoom Zoom. Because the first record he did, it was called Apache. And he used to go, zoom, 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 zoom. Yo, you seen that kid Theodore? Yo, he did the Zoom Zoom. That's exactly what it was called. And so, lack of a better, scratching came along.
Right.
Okay, sounds better than Zoom Zoom.
Right,
Maybe
we'll stick with scratching.
Right.
That's awesome. When you guys immersed yourself into the culture, was there a point that you felt this is going to evolve into something beyond what we know in our neighborhood? Like, was there a moment where you guys actively thought, let's do something to introduce it to the media, let's do something to spread it out, let's do something to turn this into a way to actually support ourselves?
Well, I mean, from the very start, we was doing it to have parties. And we wanted our parties to go from 2 to 4 and keep growing. So we was entrepreneurs in that sense because we was having our own flyers made, we was written gyms ourselves. We was doing everything. Our parents wasn't helping us because they didn't want nothing to do with it. So we was doing all this ourselves, getting gyms, having our own parties, dollar parties, 50-cent party, guess your weight party, your waist size. We used to take the waist and triple it, whatever the waist size, all that. We
and
did.
how old were you?
We was like 16. We was in our teens when we started doing all this.
So
Black night parties.
Right.
I mean, even from the time where I was doing the AB button, we was doing quarter parties.
So you guys at 16 years old, you were entrepreneurs, promoters.
Yeah.
You were dividing up money. I'm assuming that you would make some money off these parties.
Yeah.
And you guys were businessmen, and you had no roadmap. It's not like there were people.
No, we wanted, my mother used to buy me skits, and I hated that, because every other kid had Pro Kids, Converse, Chuck Taylors, and the big kids had shell toes. And that was for the big kids and the basketball players, shell toes. So my first pair of Pro Kids was red, black, and green Pro Kids. They had just came out, and they got stolen out of my gym locker. And my mother would not buy me another pair. When we saw what Herc was doing, he was already in clubs. He was already in gyms, packing them. Then Bam come out and he packed it. So all of us, we learned and following suit real quick. We was building our own speakers, all that. We couldn't afford speakers, we was building them. Herc had a system.
Oh, let me piggyback off of that one. The term of sound system, all right? Most of you DJs here today know nothing about this. Because if you go into a club and they don't have a set up already, you're lost. How many people here own their own turntables? Or CD players, CDJs, controllers, computers. Everybody got a computer, right? Back in the days, you had to have your own turntables. You had to have your own records, crates and crates of them. You had to have your own amplifiers, wires. Wires cost you just as much as a good sound system. Because they had to be good. If wire burnt out, you might burn out your whole sound system. Your own speakers. You had to have all of this stuff.
Yep.
And how you got that? If you wasn't rich, which we never found out the mystic behind Kool Herc, because he came already made with this stuff. He had it.
Well, I used to hear stories about this young kid going into Harvey's with a shoebox of money and buying equipment, and it was Herc.
Okay.
That I was hearing this story about.
Well, you can hear that. That was a Jolly Green Giant story in my days, because you know what? I heard about this kid who used to just like have to work at Pathmark packing bags so he could have a pocket full of nickels just to buy some ice cream. That was Jazzy J. All right, so I ain't have the money to go in and buy all of this stuff. So you know what we did? We learned how to build this stuff. There was another art form within the form of DJ. You were not only as good as the music that you played or how well you played it, but how well you represented yourself. You know? So if you came across with some squeaky sounding tinny speakers, you know what? That's how you got represented. You came across as that guy that, even if in our first days, I remember the nails used to still be sticking out of the boxes. We stack them up, but as long as they sound good, we had no problems. People didn't care.
I couldn't battle him on his system. I would have to come with my system to battle him.
That's right.
And if he could blow me out, he would blow me out.
It was a battle not only for skills level, but for supremacy. Because you had cats that they might have not been as good as you. They might not have had the records you had. They might have had, but if they were able to dominate you at that show, they won that battle.
And when you say dominate, you mean with regards to sound.
Sound, yeah.
How crazy is that, guys? That you had, again, how old were you?
At that time, I was probably maybe about anywhere between 13 and 15.
13, 14, 15-year-old kids didn't have enough money to go to the local, what now you would know as Guitar Center, whatever it was back then.
Harvey Sound,
Harvey Sound.
the
Crazy
Sound
Eddie.
Room, Crazy
And
Eddie.
buy the necessary equipment to play out. So what they did was they built the equipment themselves. These are teens.
You go to Radio Shack, you buy a book, and it's tell you about a sound reproduction and cabinet building, and it's that wiring, polarity, ohmage, how much ohms it takes to actually drive a speaker.
Yeah.
You find out specs, and then you actually sit down and you have to regurgitate all this knowledge, and then you go back, go to
A lot of it is math.
yeah, you go to the lumber yard, you buy some wood, and at that time, if you're 13 and 14, 15 years old, you go to a lumber guy and you give him a piece of paper and say, I want these boards cut down to this side. The guy would look at you and go, wow. And he would take an interest because like, oh, this young kid got something, he got a future going on here. So a lot of times you would get that wood either for free or you would at least get the cuts for free, and then you go home. And now it took time you to put together, after you develop your skills, later on, you would develop, how to actually build a speaker so it wouldn't fall apart. A lot of our first speakers, they all fell apart. After the bass started hitting, the back would fall off, boom, 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 back would fall off, and then you figure out which would lead you into what's the new technology now. Now, that would be new technology when we were doing it, but now new technology is learning all the programs or trying to get your stuff on the net or whatever the deal is, but it's the same concept. It may not be as physical as we did it back in the days, but it's also the same type of a concept. So, more or less.
Now, speaking on sound and sound systems, this picture I got on the projector screen behind me is featuring Tony Tone, who's with us here, and Kool Herc, who was known for having the best sound system at that time.
Yes.
If you don't mind, Tone, I always felt or thought that this picture, there was more to it, that maybe Tone was like an understudy of Herc's. Because I've seen Bam pictured with Jay, and I know the story and the relationship between Jazzy Jay and Africa Bambaataa. Was Herc your mentor?
I never DJed for her.
Never.
I moved his equipment. I did security for him. I did everything except DJ for him. But he is a person that, when I was growing up, people talked about him like he was Jesus Christ. And when I walked up on him, he had an aura that really I felt. So I started studying him, started going to his party and just watching him and just picking the system apart and listening to what he was playing, and really got the gist of what we now know as hip hop from him. As to Bambaataa, I met Bambaataa in 1974. Used to go to his house, go do records and stuff, and then go to Herc and Bam is like the few people that still got records that I know they can pull out and play that I still have not found. And I will not ask them what the name of it is because that's disrespectful. Because I've seen Herc like yell at people like, what do you want me to give you everything? Because he wants you to be motivated and find things for yourself, learn things for yourself.
That I gave you a job so
Yeah.
you wouldn't have to steal and rob,
Yeah.
gain a little fame and wealth, thought you done it all by yourself. Listen, this thing called digging for records. And you get dusty. Now, I still sport a little TWA, the teeny weeny afro. But back in the days when it used to be a little larger, it used to be filled with dust. Because when I started flipping through them records and you get dust over, by the time you go home, the fro was nappy. You had record dust all in, but you had a stack of records like this, and you get home. And you got that stack of records that you done collected all day, and maybe that much out of it you might be able to use. If you're lucky. I've came up double zeros a lot of times. Because we used to just go buy records just or pick up an album cover, you look at it, go, Look on the other side, see if you see any recognizable names. I'm just gonna get this, you know, and you would get it. Take it home, nothing. So it goes in the dumpster file or whatever the deal is. But a lot of that took a lot. It ain't like going on the internet. Let me just punch in the name.
Who sampled this?
Yeah. Oh yeah. And then now you got it for your party. Right. You know what I'm saying? Part of the reason why we do this is because we have such a love. As far as like the digging, that's something I feel so proud about because of the fact that if it wasn't for that, you know, there would be songs that we wouldn't open up. I remember having cuts underneath my nails here and here because every time you get to the party, you have to open up records. There are records that we wouldn't play till we get to the party that night. It was just a thing that you had to be part of that culture. And people recognized each other. Even the cats that weren't DJs, that were diggers, we would see each other in the stores and be like, you know, give each other a sign like, all right, I'm watching you. Yeah, I'm watching you too. That's why I'm here. But that's the whole thing. But
it's like when you in another country and people that you don't even live around and say, yo, I appreciate when y'all come here because y'all don't separate yourselves from us. Y'all talk to us. Y'all blend in with us. And they say all these new cats, you know, come there, they behind the velvet rope and all that. That's not hip hop. If I come, I want to be around people. I want to talk. I want to share things. I want to learn things.
We resumed the same amount of anonymity that it's like if Bambaataa came out with a record and he steamed the label off, that means that record was his. You wanted to hear that record, you had to go to that party. For the amount of time that he kept it a secret, you know what I'm saying, that was his joint.
When we went record shopping, guys like King George used to, like, yo, and then when I come up to pay for it, I'm in the $2 bin.
Right.
And when I come up to pay for it, next time I come, these records is on the wall for $80 now. Because he's watching what I'm buying. Because he know who I am.
You ain't did nothing until you carried 14, 15 crates. Y'all know what a milk crate is, right? Crates of records to a party. And then have to carry them back home.
On top of the speakers and the turntables
and the amps.
It's hard carrying them in, but it's harder carrying them out after the party.
Yeah, you know why? All your homeboys gonna help you bringing them in because they want to get in the party for free. They gonna get yo, Jude, I got this, man. They carry 2-3 crates at a time. Look, homeboy, he's Hercules. Come to the end of the party, they done hooked up with this girl. They done over there, or they too high. They gone. Now you look at all these stacks of records. Not only you got to put them all back in the right jackets. Make sure you get all your records home. Now you ain't got no help no more.
So and these guys are doing this, guys, for either zero pay or a couple $100, if that. But they love playing music so much that they made that sacrifice, that physical sacrifice, the mental sacrifice of studying electronics and building speakers just so they could play music for people. Today, we live in an era where DJs of today are spoiled. And if the equipment isn't set up for them, they're not going to go the extra mile to get the equipment themselves and bring it to whatever venue. They're not going to go the extra mile to go to whatever record stores are left in New York City and look for actual vinyl. They want to do everything from the comfort.
Everybody want to copy your hard drive.
Or to find that one song that defines you. You know, we've had DJs that actually made their debut off of playing a song that nobody else had but them. But that song was so hot, and they held on to it for as long as they can to identify that, like, yo, this is mine. I broke this song.
Right. Yeah. Take over the name.
Yeah. as far as skills and everything, you can have a lot of skills, but a lot of DJs don't break songs. DJs used to break songs back in the days. A lot of DJs went to jail for breaking songs too, because it's like, play this song, let me give you this couple of dollars underneath the table. But the real DJs that used to actually break songs is that DJ that, okay, oh yeah, I like that. I'm gonna play that. And everybody be like, yo, run up to the DJ, what's that? Then they run right to the record store and go buy it. Our job as DJs is to influence all of the populace with as much good music as we can. Because in my opinion, there's only two types of music. There's good music and there's bad music. And there's a gray area. This okay, this tolerable, this is that. But there's only good and bad. In every genre. In hip-hop, I can't play every hip-hop song. God knows some of the songs that's coming out today that they call hip-hop. I dread playing them. But you know what? There's good in rock, funk, R&B, calypso, even folk music. Polka. I got some polka songs right now I can play for y'all. Y'all be like, that's kind of hot right now. And you thought you was never going to be a polka fan. I can play that for you and you will like it.
There's an artistry to being a DJ. It goes beyond the technical skills of it and being able to do a scratch or drop on a one. It's tasting music, understanding how to use songs that are personal to you so that you could stand out amongst the gazillion DJs that exist today. So if you're just downloading music from iTunes and playing stuff that everyone else is playing at the clubs or on the radio, what separates you from that person? And that's the point, the moral of the story here is that your music is a reflection of your energy. So what you want to do as a DJ is play music that is unique to you. For you guys that are starting, my students that are starting to think about their finals, you want your final to be a reflection of you, not of what some DJ on a radio station is playing.
That you just mimic their play.
Right, exactly.
Or, you know what, reach out of the box, because the fact that, you trying to find your own identity, that the best way to do it is to make people go, oh shit. Once they say, oh shit, you got them.
And scratching is one thing. Because you got to scratch on time. You got to scratch. If you can make a rhythm, if you can change up the music and be on time, great. Not just all over the place.
And you don't want to be what's called a safety net. You know what? I know a lot of guys, all they play is safety net music. What I call safety net music is, you know the guys that walk on the tightrope and they balance themselves? The real guys, they don't need a safety net because they know they ain't going to fall. They're going to do whatever they can to stay on that rope. But you know what? It's like, oh, well, if I fall, I got the safety net. Safety net is those music the mix songs and the songs that no matter, oh, I'm in trouble now. Let me put on bass drop.
Right.
I got the hits. Oh, I got him back now. You know what? Only thing you did was you just follow the script. You should be able to always. I'm not saying something wrong with safety net music, but the whole thing is you don't identify yourself with safety net music as being a DJ.
We talked about Herc's influence on Tony Tone. Let's talk about Africa Bambaata's influence on you. I remember hearing stories of the both of you in park jams. These are like the infant stages of hip-hop, the early days. And Bam was never really associated with having the kind of skill that a Grandmaster Flash had or a Grandmaster Theodore had. But he was known for his knowledge of music and his extensive record collection. But where you come in is, I remember hearing stories that you were like a protege of Bam's. So what he couldn't do technically, he would have you kind of go on the turntables at parties and basically point at a groove in a record as if to say, pick up the needle, go to this part of the record. Trust me, there's something on there that when you play it, the crowd's gonna go crazy. And there will be records that you wouldn't even know half of them. You wouldn't even be familiar with them, but you know, he was like your mentor, and you would go to these spots on the record, drop them, and sure enough, like people will go crazy. We could just talk about your relationship with Bam in that respect.
Bam, me and Bam's relationship was real good because of the fact that we were kind of like opposites. I was more or less a loner, always stayed to myself. I had a clique of people that I used to hang with, and that was it. Where Bam, any point in time you see him, he had an entourage of 40, 50 people everywhere he went. But we did our jobs well. What is Bam's thing was he lived, breathed music. I mean, he would sit there day, sun up, sun out, listening to music. My thing was to interpret what he wanted in a fashion that I could deliver it to the generation that we were living right there at that point. People that wanted to see a stylish DJ. You could, the days of just putting the needle on the record, letting the record go till the end, and then playing the next record, that was done. That was basically what Bam did. He programmed music and did very well doing it. But they wanted to see more. They wanted to see the breaks extending. They wanted to see cuts. They wanted to see a little bit of chops. They wanted to see some rubs. You know what I'm saying? So that's where I came in, because I studied under tutors like people like Grandmaster Flash, watched people like Theodore invent things, and then went home and spent countless hours on my turntable perfecting what I do. You know what I'm saying? A part of what I kind of invented was what Steve D brought into fruition, the beat juggling. Because I would take certain things, okay, well, we got a part right here. If I take a kick and a snare from a song and just make a beat out of it while another song is going, that might add another element. And that was my element that I brought to it, and that Bambaataa said, okay, well, listen, if I just give you the songs, you could take that to the next level. And at one point in time, I don't know if there's any DJ in here to feel that, like, at one point in time that you at the top of your game. There is nobody like you could walk down the street in confidence and say, you know what I do, I am either the best or one of the best at doing. That's what I brought to the game for Bambaataa, because of the fact that he's the best at what he does at selecting and putting songs together. At that time, it was only cats like myself, Grand Wizard Theodore, Grandmaster Flash, Tone, Chase, Rockin' Rob, DXT.
Yeah.
DXT. There was cats that, in that category, we were like the second coming. The Grandmaster Flash, the Africa Bambaataa, and the Kool Herc, that's the top of the tree. The next generation with the cats that were coming up were changing how everybody DJed.
This album, Radio, is one of the albums that I used to study with regards to what the scratches sounded like and how I could get my scratches to sound better. The album dropped in, let's see, 86, 87?
Yeah.
The album dropped, 1985.
Well, it's 85, but you got to understand, the first one, when we did in 84, was It's Yours 0001. It was Jazzy J and T. La Rock.
Before we get to that, hold on. Before we get to that, I want to ask you this, Jay. Again, I was studying these scratches on this album because there was no YouTube, there was no Facebook, so it's not like I could see video of Jay doing this amazing rhythm. So I would study these scratches thinking it was Cut Creator doing them. And so I'm giving Cut Creator all the credit. Come to find out, like almost a decade later, that it wasn't Cut Creator. It was a guy named Jazzy J the whole time. And obviously I already knew about you, but I had no idea that you did the scratches for this album. Before we move on to Tone, I wanted to ask you, what is your opinion or your sentiments on the fact that many of us DJs thought it was someone else that did these scratches? How was it doing, like writing, like Beyonce may have a ghostwriter for a song, or Drake may have a ghostwriter for a song. LL Cool J had a ghost DJ do the scratches on his album, and Cut Creator, the DJ that would tour with him, got the credit. How do you feel about that?
You know what? I actually didn't think I was that important at that time. I thought it was just like, yo, listen, long as y'all pay me to do a job, you tell anybody you want. Tell everybody, you know, whoever did it. I could care less. But my main thing was, it was a company that I was supposedly, and this is a lot of things you're going to understand, which may not even apply these days in business, company that I was supposedly was 50-50 partners in. I started Def Jam Records out of the trunk of my 1979 Chevy Caprice Classic. All right? This is before Russell Simmons. It was just me and Rick Rubin. He was a college student like you guys are right now at NYU dorms. He came and started hanging out with me, and it was like, I'm interested in hip hop, but I don't know what to do. So I taught him how to make beats. I taught him what drum machines to buy, and that was it. So more or less, as far as like doing an artist where it's like, okay, this is the next artist we're gonna go with, because I was actually the only artist on the label, which was ridiculous, because I never considered myself as an artist. Said, okay, we got another artist. I listened to LL. I'm like, yeah, I like this guy. I'm gonna do whatever I can to make this a hit. Not thinking I was gonna get phased out of the label, but more or less, that's how that came about. It was just me doing my part for my label.
This was the first single off the Def Jam recording label. At the time, the label was actually called Party Time, wasn't it?
Well, actually, it was Def Jam, but Rick's parents had extended all that money they was going to give to him, so we had to come out of pocket to put it out. Like I said, we were selling it out of the trunk of my car. Mm-hmm. And the only company that would sell the record was 99 Records. And then they hooked us up with Arthur Baker, who was our producer with Planet Rock years earlier. It wasn't a good situation, but you went through a lot of not good situations in the music industry. In the early 80s, man, everybody was getting stabbed in the back, but this is the song.
This is the song, and this song is called It's Yours, and it's
001.
Tila Rock, Jazzy Jam Scratches. This is another song that I used to study when I was coming up. Now listen to how tasteful Jazzy J scratches are. They flow beautifully over the music.
Commentating, illustrating, description giving, adjective expert, analyzing some of the musical myths, seeking people of the universe. This is yours. It's yours. Do you like it? Yeah. Do you want it? Yeah. Well, if you had it, would you flaunt it? Yeah. Well, it's yours. Taking a record that's already.
See, what that was more or less question and answering scratches. Like you'd have a scratch go, Fran, what you say, Fran, what you gonna do? So you try to mimic what you would do verbally on the scratch, and then I call it question and answer, but a lot of people call it a lot of different things.
I want to pass on this conversation on the tone and have them describe what it's like to collaborate with a group in a live setting. Grandmaster Kaz right here, guys. He was like the leader of the Cold Crush, would you say?
No.
No? Who was?
Cap.
He's the captain of the MC.
He was the captain of the MC.
I'm the leader.
He was the leader. The DJ. We got it on camera.
Yeah. Listen, one quick thing before you go. It was always, you know what I'm saying? It was Tone and Chase and the Cold Crush, Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five, Africa Bambaataa and the Soul Sonic Force, Jazzy J and the Jazzy Five. they got it twisted later on in this whole thing. When he started going to records, that's where everything started going twisted.
The DJ was the focal point. The DJ was the nucleus.
The DJ was everything.
The leader.
DJ put
and the MC,
together,
the MC, we could always turn his mic off.
Right. So you had
the DJ put out all the money for everything. The MCs only showed up and rap. That's all.
Yeah, and look good.
Yeah,
and most of them take steal all
their microphones.
And then once record labels came into the picture and the record industry came into the picture,
we couldn't turn their mic off no more because the industry controlled their microphone level.
Right, and then the industry put them to the forefront, and you guys
try to elbow us out.
One of the challenges, Tone, that I have for my students next semester is they have to catch 3 beats: Big Beat, Impeach the President, and God Made Me Funky. While Rabbi Darkside, big shout to Rabbi Darkside, rhymes as they're like, you know, playing the beats and navigating through each beat.
Okay.
And I want you guys to see Michaela rocking with another student, a classmate named Dan. This is really cool. This happened last Thursday, and I'm still kind of like geeking out off it because it was spontaneous. This was unplanned.
That's the way the best shit happens. Because you know what, you feel it more than you do it.
Let's check it out.
Get up there. Yo, I'm super fly, like a bird. I'm super smart, like a nerd. I'm in class, looking at some ass, trying to see some shit and chill after class. What's that? A dope rap. My man's gonna put me on Facebook and Snapchat. That's that. I'm shooting, make them duck, add black. Oh snap, I run it back like a backspin, as in my max lay down. Every time I got a juke throw with no crown. Oh, so profound. So round, I'm around the earth, I'm in the orbit.
I'm recording this and Michaela's killing it. And I'm like, I gotta get her to do a drop. I gotta get her to do a drop.
That's what I'm saying.
Right. So I'm like, Michaela, do a drop. And she looks at me, she's like, huh? What? Like as she's catching the beat. So already, you don't realize this, Michaela, but that speaks volumes because you were able to hear me, talk to me, and still keep the beat going.
Multitask.
So, you were multitasking. You were realizing you were doing this. So I'm like, do a drop. She's like, what does that mean? As she's catching the beat. So I'm like, take the music off, scratch, but keep time. And she's like, all right. And she did it perfectly. And I almost lost my shit. It was so good. Let's check it out.
The first thing was good that when he came up, he didn't distract you.
Right.
He didn't let him distract you.
Stay calm. Let's check this out. Watch.
Put your wig back, go tip the tat, and I spit that flow.
Michaela, do a drop when the music drops. Do a drop. Right. You go like take the music out. Take the music out and just scratch and keep the timing.
On it, I'm faster than the hedgehog and Sonic.
Here we go.
You gotta find that.
Right. Keep going. Yo, but keep rapping.
Yo, how I'm gonna do it? I'm rapping this on my day off.
Guys, look at her face. She's fucking having fun. She's having the time of her life.
Yeah.
She's having fun.
See,
and that's
know what
this art's about.
The next phase from that is when you zone. You haven't experienced being a DJ until you just zone out.
You got to get the arch in your back.
Am I right or left?
You are right.
When you zone, you know what happens? You like got the force with you. Everything just goes right. You're just like, and you go into that zone feature. You know, it's awesome because of the fact that when you come out, everybody's like, yo. You looking around, everybody's like, yo, yeah. They jumping around. You're like, what the hell I just do?
So Tone,
Get that arch in your back, get that elbow up.
After watching that video, I mean, I'm sure for you, it's crazy to watch because they're doing what I'm teaching them, what I learned from you guys.
Yeah, and that's all how we started.
So could you describe that? Like, what was it like when you guys were doing it? Like, inventing this fucking amazing genius way of being creative without needing a drum kit and a bass guitar and a guitar and a horn, doing it on turntables and a vocalist. How was that creative process?
Like you go to, like I said, I'm in the crowd watching Jay, I'm in the crowd watching Flash, I'm in the crowd, I'm with Breakout watching Breakout. And you listening to what they doing, and then you go home and you try to remember it, but you trying to get that plus put your own spin on it. I mean, every record we tried on 33, we tried on 40, on 45, we even tried some on 78. You know, we tried to make it work for us. Needles, quarters, nickels on the needles, I mean, everything so it won't jump. Plastic under the slip mat, cardboard, you know, everything just to try to get it there if you didn't have the right turntables.
And what advice would you have for my students as they're mentally preparing and physically preparing for the challenge next week? What advice do you have for them as DJs?
Just build your confidence up and stay cool. That's all.
That's what I always tell them.
Build your confidence up and stay cool.
Stay cool.
My advice is, you know what? Mechanical, out. Human feel, in. You know what? The technical part of it, like I say, a lot of you, there's a couple of different styles you can apply. All right? You're talking about your backspin or what Flash. See, Flash is my boy. Let me give you a Flash impersonation. Well, you see, Jazzy, you know, I developed the clock theory because, you know, it develops time in coordination with synchronized motion. And like Flash, it's the backspin. The backspin, we was doing the backspin, man. You called it the backspin back then. No, I renamed it. It's the clock theory. So, he wasn't concentrating on his backspin. You know what he was concentrating on? He was clocking what he was doing, all right? He wasn't thinking about, okay, the revolutions that you got to spin back. You know what? He had developed a rhythm so that, okay, that's 3. Or you let it go a little further, that's 4. But you know what? You feel this. Once you start to feel it and it becomes a part of you, you don't think that hard about the technical of it. What you think about is the way you introduce it. All right? So, like here, I'm spinning back. Okay, well, I spin back. Okay, no, that's wrong. That's right. Okay, now I'm letting that go. But I'm not thinking about, okay, you know, some people, they get too caught into the motion. You know what? Back. When you got it right, now set yourself, reset yourself. Make that hit right. Let me make that hit right. Yeah. Okay? Stop. Rub that right. Bam. Let it hit right. It's got to be more of a feeling like your heartbeat than just a DJ tool or whatever. That's what separates you from the next DJ. You have to meet more. It has to be a part of you. And where that comes from, I'm sorry to say, practice. The more you practice, you ain't even gonna think about that backspin no more. You ain't gonna think about count how many times that line went around. You're gonna know it automatically. You're gonna be like.
A lot of people, you gotta listen to the music. A lot of people just start going like a robot. You just doing it. You gotta listen to the music, and you gotta know, ride that music right. When you in and out or whatever, you got. And when you coming in, you gotta come in. And a lot of things we doing, like when the Cold Rush, like we was trying to be fast MCs. I mean DJs, battle DJs. But when we got to a certain level, we had to become show DJs. So we had to leave a lot of that other stuff alone and just be show DJs and keep everything on par so the MCs could do what they was doing. Because that's what we became show DJs after a while. We wasn't battle DJs no more, none of that.
And as a drummer, everybody knows that there's different roles that every instrument plays. The drummer is the timekeeper. The drummer in hip-hop DJing is your life or your death. Because if you sound like a drummer warming up, trying to catch quarter notes, and catch triplets on the hi-hat, dude, you throwing everybody in the band off. But if you're a drummer, you might not even get triple kicks or whatever, but you catch that right solid, and you provide a long, lengthy bed underneath your performer, you good. You better than that guy that's trying to attack. He's trying to show everybody, you know what? He's playing for himself. He's not playing for the band, and he's not playing for the audience. He's playing for himself. Look how good I look doing this. But dude, you're not reaching the mark. Until you get that right, don't display that outdoors.
You don't want your skills to fight with the rapper. It's supposed to be a blend. So as technically sound as you are, as dope of a transformer scratcher you are, it's not your job to display those skills when you're backing an MC. It's about the MC shining and you pulling down and back your ego a bit and just keeping the beat going. Nice and smooth, exactly the way Michaela did in that video.
When your MC get off the stage and turn around and hug you, like pick you up, like, yo, you know you did your job.
And then you push him out the way. Then it's time to go in. Yo, check my shit out now. My phone is.
You can do that at the after party. You can do that out there.
Yeah, so you take some of that. Some of that. Real quick. You want some of that too?
Something I want to touch on.
That's what you do.
So, Tone, you were in the movie Wild Style.
Yeah.
Classic hip hop film. I always reference it in class. Jazzy J, you were in a movie called Beat Street.
Beat Street.
Let's talk about Beat Street. You're in a movie called Beat Street. Your group, Soul Sonic Force, was in the movie. Now, for me, there are three, for me, major films in the 1980s that came out that documented hip-hop culture. Star Wars was more of a graffiti film, but there was b-boying in it. Wild Style, it was fictional, but also documentary at the same time, because basically
the realest of all of them.
The realest of all the films. It was basically groups like Cold Crush Brothers, Fantastic Five Freaks, the character Zorro, Lee Quiñones was a graph writer. They were all basically playing themselves in a film. So it's kind of like fiction documentary. Lady Pink, another graph writer, was in the movie. Then you have Beat Street. Now, to me, those are the three most impactful hip-hop movies of the 80s. There were other movies like Break-In and stuff like that, but I don't consider those. Beat Street, for me, was Star Wars and Wild Style gone Hollywood.
Okay. It was actually an experience in my life that I will never forget. It actually helped me to go on to bigger and better things, because the money I made from Beat Street, even though I hated the movie, I actually till today, I know it was a point in my life where I did something that I've never did before. I've never been into the Hollywood scene, never into the movies. But I always hated the movie, but it allowed me to open up Jazzy J Recording Studio, which opened up a whole nother can of worms in my next phase of my life that would just take me to another whole level that DJing inspired, that brought me to a whole different genre. Now, I always loved that movie for that, because of the fact that it's like, finally, I'm going to get treated like somebody that, you know, that deserves to get at least paid for some of this stuff. Because before that, everybody used to show up with cameras and film you, get information. The next thing you know, they're going back and they're getting all of this money, and you're still in the projects, and you're like, wait a minute, I'm in that film, I'm in that film, I'm in this film. I got clips of me over here. That is a clip of me that was in 1981. That's probably, whenever they say old school hip hop, this clip shows up everywhere in the world. It's like an 18-year-old Jazzy J. I think it's a Star Wars thing. And I cannot say nothing to nobody, but these guys are making millions. I don't know who owns it. What you got to do is, in all of these situations like this, even though it's a blessing, sometimes it's a curse in disguise, but you got to take care of your business, always. As you consider yourself a DJ, so you're like, oh, well, there ain't nothing, they pay me to come do this or whatever it is. Always keep track of your royalties, keep track of your statements, keep track of your image. Own everything that's about you.
Own your name.
And own, oh yeah, your name. So that's why I had to change my name. I had to actually change my name to the original Jazzy J because of the fact back in 1991, there were so many Jazzy J's that if you plug up the name Jazzy J, depending on how you spell it, you might have got Irish guy from Wisconsin or a Samoan in New Zealand. Yo, it was ridiculous. So I had to trademark the name, and I had to shut down people's websites. It was ridiculous. But it's all part of the business, and part that I didn't want to be none of them. You know, all I wanted to do when I first came into this, all I wanted to do was just go to the park and play music and have like everybody in the neighborhood go, dude, you're a hero. That shit you played was good. That's all I wanted. Everything else that came to me to now, I appreciate it. But you know what? I'm still under the phase that, hey, that's all I really wanted to just please the people that looked at me and appreciate what I did. Now, as far as me getting older and getting a little wiser, I got a family and I'm doing all of this. You're going to have to make money on this. So I say do it wise, but set your mark, set it to an extent so that you can always be able to tap into it to survive.
We just talked for an hour and 15 minutes about these kids, these teenage kids that would go to equipment stores and buy books on electronics to build speakers. We talked about kids that would charge a nickel to get into parties just so they could play music for people. And that was hip-hop. And now in 2016, this right here is really what it's been reduced to. It's like a lot of asses in your face, or I'm driving this car.
That I can't even afford.
Right, that really I don't own, but I'm going to sell you that image.
Listen, I don't buy nothing I can't put a speaker in. If I can't put a speaker in it, I don't want it. I don't want no people.
I want to know from you guys, there are people today that call this hip-hop.
Now, but you know what? That's the misinformed. Because of the fact that it has elements of hip-hop. There's always been the negative and the positive side of everything. We always had balance. Today, they're not really giving us too much balance in what they so-called hip-hop. We always had Red Fox, LaWanda Page, Millie Jackson, and they were on the raunchy side of R&B. But on the other side, we had Earth, Wind, and Fire. We had Gladys Knight and the Pips. We had so-and-so. We had a balance.
None of y'all ladies go to parties like this, do y'all?
No.
Okay.
But check this out. Are they giving us a balance? Well, okay, listen, look at this. We had at one time, we had Cool G Rap that say, we know what Cool G Rap did.
Yeah.
Okay, so we had Akinyele, put it in your mouth.
Yeah.
We had all of that. But we also had Rakim. We also had Public Enemy. We also had X-Clan. We also had, we had a balance. So if you want to do that raunchy, or you got in the mood and you just want to, hey, I'm going to slide over the raunchy side tonight. Let me do the raunchy. But you still had a balance where you can go do something else. Now, they're not giving us a balance. What they're giving us is, it's like, oh, okay, you know what? We're just going to force feed you, whatever.
It's all
the balance stopped happening. I'm going to tell you exactly when it stopped happening. Real history. If you want to go and research, maybe you can rebuttal me. But I think it started happening when NWA came out and they said, oh, everybody got to be gangsters now. Before that, Dana Dane said, well, I was walking down the street and Slick Rick was telling you stories. Dougie Fresh was party jamming. And then people, we had balance. We had different genres of what we need to do within hip hop. Then when NWA came out, NWA said, you know what? If you ain't cursing and shooting everybody, then you know what? You ain't hip hop. And then
everything good gets a virus.
okay.
Everything good, a virus is implanted in it. So that was a virus for hip hop.
And I like NWA because I like them for what they did.
Yeah.
But you know what? I also had my Rakim. I also had my X-Clans. I had my Public Enemies. I had my Zulu Nation. I had balance. I had balance on all of that. I still have my Nas. You know, I had my educational rap. I had my KRS-One, so I get my little teaching on. You know, I had a little bit of everything. But now they're telling me, no, you either take this shit or this is hip hop. No, that's the business of rap. Excuse me.
When it came to getting signed to a record deal, it's like I heard things like they would give people a list. Your record got to have this many B words in it, this many N words in it. Yeah, you got to be talking about this and that, all negative stuff. We used to call people like De La Soul the backpack rappers, Knowledge Born, and they just phased them all out. And we've been doing grassroots hip hop all the while, underground. Everybody's like the Zulu Nation. We've been doing the Zulu Nation anniversary for going on 42 years, and people are still saying, I never heard about it. How could you not hear about it?
What can we do to get back to this era? Not that I want us to go back in time or go backwards, but as students of this art form, the semester ends May, then they leave me and they take everything that I taught them, that I learned from you guys, and they're going to use it the way they use it. I have no control over them anymore after they leave the semester. So what advice do you have as they kind of move on?
I only got one thing. It was one thing that Ice Cube said that made a lot of sense, and he made a song about it. He said, turn off the radio. And that means a lot because you know what? The media brainwashes a lot of people into thinking things that they would normally not think. So I'm like, you know what? Shut off the radio. And if you're thinking about your music, you know what? Shut off. Well, now we are beyond the radio, right? Turn off the internet when it comes to your music. Do your music from here. Again, go up and go somewhere and just, if you want to make music or feel your music, take your music, go out in the mountains somewhere where you get cut off from everybody and just do your music for a couple of months. When you come back, you're gonna feel like everything is subpar and beneath you.
Well, I was telling Bam like 10 years ago, we can start our own radio stations. We don't have to sit around and wait for them to change up their format because they're not. As long as it's making them money, they're going to keep pushing that. You go to a restaurant, if the steak ain't cooked like you want it, you send it back. The same thing with your music. If you hear something you don't like, send it back.
Leave it alone.
Everybody is so hooked into this, and if you listen to it long enough, it'll start sounding right to you.
Following trends.
Yeah, but all this music is not put together mathematically correct. And a lot of it you can't even dance to. I've been in a party where dude is playing old school music and people are dancing. As soon as he start playing this, they stop dancing and they start mimicking the words. And it's like...
Oh yeah, I seen that. I'm a witness to that. I went to a party and I was like, oh man, my boy's getting ready. He gonna get fired tonight because ain't nobody dancing. Sure enough, at the end of the night, owner came to me, dude, you're available for next week, and I'm like, but I'm like, you know what? No matter what, I'm gonna introduce, because you know what? some of this ain't bad. That's not all of it. Like I say, it's that music. It's only good, and it's that gray area. You got some that's good, some that's bad.
As soon as you throw it on, they like
and
Marvin
then also,
not dancing.
Also, I know y'all the younger generation also. You know what I'm saying? You're able to make up right from wrong. And sooner or later, you're going to be thinking about, like, whoa, what the hell? My daughter, I want my daughter to listen to, wait a minute. Do I want my daughter, I look on the screen, that's my daughter twerking her ass up there like that. What the hell is going on? And it gets to you because, like sometimes you get demoralized because you're younger and you got, you're just living, you're having fun, whatever it is. And after a while, you start thinking about like, oh, life kicked in. Wait a minute. I don't think that's going to be right for the next generation. Or I should pass that on as something that you should just readily do.
I stopped drinking when I was 17. I was in a Cool Herc party and I passed out. The next day I stopped drinking. Haven't drunk since. Never smoked weed or nothing. I went to Amsterdam and they take me in the store, they give me a menu, like 60 different kinds of weed. I was like, I don't smoke. Dude looked at me and said, how can you not smoke and be in the hip hop? I said, dude.
You don't even realize that.
Two don't go together.
Yeah, just stay true to yourself.
Now, at the right time, you get me on the turntable, you'll think I'm high. Let me start putting my system together, you'll think I'm high. Because I get high once I start. And it's like, I feel like I'm floating sometimes. But when that bass hit,
just before you say, there's another real high that a lot of y'all ain't even experienced. Yo, it's something about the way a hip hop sound system hits. When that bass hits, boom, boom, and that bass hits, it's unlike anything else you ever
especially
heard in life.
Especially if the DJ is doing this.
It's unlike anything, and certain cats like they used to bug out on me because I used to actually crawl up inside like the bass speakers, and the bass speakers be boom, 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 and it's like a foot kicking you. I used to crawl up in the speaker. Jimmy hit me. I was like, it's unbelievable. It was no way that you can fit what happened at the jam into a record per se. Chuck D said it best. He's like, I tried to just put on record what I saw at the jam. He said, I settled for what Public Enemy made because there's no way we could do that. There's no way they could have did what we did at the jam because if you ever went to Harlem World, you ever went to any of these other spots, T Connection, you notice there's no way you could put that on a piece of vinyl.
We was using smoke machines already. We was doing a whole lot of stuff that real acts was using.
Right. This energy you can't capture on television.
And no disrespect to the Chevelle gang, but they wasn't rappers in the street. They straight to the studio.
They were studio cats. They were probably the first studio cats.
Right.
Being a DJ is also it could be a humbling experience, or you get like some of these prima donnas who think that they're better than the people that put them on the pedestal that they think they're on. See, myself, I'm never any better than any of you guys that go out and come to my party and pay at the door, or anybody that pays money for any mix I did or any song I produced. So you know what? The people supporting me, and you come DJs without the people supporting you, you ain't nobody, because of the fact that you didn't do that by yourself. Unless you going out buying 1 million copies of your own records and going out and paying at the door 200 times to come in at your own party. All right? So be DJs, be conscious, and be truthful to the culture and the craft. DJ Jazzy J, I love y'all. In the mind, signing out.